Praise the Lord, Odofo, Rade Asumudwe Enkam. Yamideshi me pesa me no kenkan say be free. Isaiah chapter 53, reading from verse 1. I say, who has believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of dry ground. He has no form nor comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned away one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed, he was afflicted, and yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, as a sheep before her shearers is dumb, so he opened not his mouth. He was taken from prison and from judgment. Who shall declare his generation? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. For the transgression of my people was he stricken, and he made his grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, because he had done no violence, neither was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He has put him to grief. And when thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed, and he shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper his hands. Order 4. And Sama Yakinka Yewo Udifo Isaiah. You bet me from the Messianic prophecy. Now talking about the suffering Lamb of God. Isaiah ewo humhumu a oka nsema ebeba dachi mmiremu efa Messiah nyame gwama boni ni mu a obeso wiasefo nyina boni ewo no akasa ne nipadua mu. And nsem na no ahia sa Isaiah say, who has believed this report? It's very difficult to accept it. Just as the generation of Christ found it difficult to accept that Christ indeed was the Son of God. Nyame ba na ehunu amane sei. Enti na mane hunu ni asɛmdua no ho nsɛm. Bible say yenkwasi asɛm ma wona woyera. Enti wo wiase ni papa pi wo ho a omadwe yo mo se de na Yesu ye ni papa no. Nyame nyaa de mane nsofa saa. Na enso niema nyina dadi wo apanfoforo no mu. Na say Yesu okwase nnua no so ono aka ho asem na yebo ni di ansa na yewo no di Isaiah so kan say obefefete se dufuro ewo nipa anim ewo nyame anim a dua ni hini enkofom bia wa asase kwatikwati so na yehwe no na mani hunu eni na ningu ase a o say there was nothing comely in him to admire. Who are dear be a efe wonimu a ema yani mpo gene ho a ebeye yi. O say he was despised and rejected. Na yebu na nimutia. Ya fa ne nyehwe ya to na twene. rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. Ɔwerɛhonia ɔne awerɛhoɔ ɔnyɛ ayɔnkofa. He was a man of sorrow and he was also acquainted with grief. Just say, wadi years anti onim the meaning and the definition of pain. Sana Yesu abrabo yeye. And we hid as it were our faces from him. He was despised and we esteem him not. And the kind of torture that was meted out to him was so despicable that women who were very close to him could not draw closer. And mad the very fun quite since I yabo won a new yam hini adaja. Yabono amanima sisa. Ya disfigano. Moje tuni hinim ni nanum. Ne honam epirepira. Nti bibibia ne mu a eye yemfe. Afi waye acquainted with grief. Na afi si yi enim kura free ne so. Na you cannot esteem him because the agent kwani nie. Ama Judas ni paboni panu ne ho. The idea is so deep. But he was wounded for our transgressions. So ye boni hu asotwe entina ye pira no. Jesus was wounded. Onyam wuye na wapira. Wapira na honam ye ya otoguso. Oso asenu ontimi. Na nimunsuo atwe moja pram no. Na oso dua ye kokunu woso. Na ontimi bi unti ese ye po bi ma ne beboa no. He was bruised for our iniquities. Verse 4, I read also, surely he has borne our griefs. Ya read who also, and also ya dia swano. And am I minding you know what daggering? The burdens of the nations were upon his shoulder. Ya dia swano and carried our sorrows. Ya read who. The free yarimu, the free ohiemu, the free kodanamu, the free sin culture, a free guilt, a year bonny who for dear who are drinking a die soon as we fast one. Yet we just esteem him stricken and smitten of God and afflicted. Because he was oppressed. Oppressed just a yes, share no so. You can't say to so, yeah, yena yaka dear. Afflicted. And yet he opened not his mouth. Now yes, you are lawyer penny war heaven. And dear ye lawyer ni yapa and said, ya can't say my good son, a young man to me and Canadian. The lawyer for was your friend Odi or Tilam Partim. Said, Manipana Quanon also on Canadian. And yet he opened not his mouth. He was brought in as a lamb to the slaughter. Now yes, it is so dry a year cocoon. No, when anti unresisting. As a sheep before her shearers is damp or dry, you could try to whom we are yet a unsumpo. He did draw son on found, and yet he opened not his mouth. Oh, me and I don't know what did him. I said, you are not no being and no cancer, the Nina so one condemn humanity. Or bompa you summa ni pampo. Or restraining who said, "They are on to me, Jerusalem." On to me, Abraham Masifo. The Jaffa wa boni chewo wonim de warrior. And this is the story of crucifixion. He was taken from prison. Ye chene to baby da anadwa ye chi Yesu. Ye di na semon prensa. Ko di na sem ba ko asofo mpanyfo ho. Oh, or desecrated Jewish religion. Osi obebubu asontan na gu o de dakoro bebubu ni nyina o de nansasi na woni mfie dodo edisi da be se mfie aduanan wo ye nyame ba na asontan na obebubu aya no kura they were right nyame ba ensa ya sore dan di ye bo Yesu charge se ogu Jewfo som ho fi meme nda nyina o sayare na obi ya no so onimomra na oni nyame nyansa ni hu ehu chen de bonyeni As I say, emra, eye power. Na tumi wa mra mu no, se nyame mmobrohuru nka ho a, eseyade. Yebo Yesu charge ahoro. Na asofo no, bisa Yesu. Wo ye hwan? Wo da so ye nyame ba. Na Yesu ka kire say, enche bia mbe so osoro abie. Na be say abofo di afrosane. Ewo nipa ba no so. Na mzi ti wo pa che so ye nyame ba. Na so fo panyi tete na tariem. Omote ase se Yesu ye nyame ba dia na che so ye nyame. Bo mu hu so mu ni tumi a ye di ku nipa. Se samre num na Israel man eshe Roman man ase. And the power of execution did not rest with the religious authority. Na yedi Yesu so ko Herod ho. Ko bo the church. Herod so hwe na so onye boni bia moma yeni ne ho fel kakra. Na yedi Yesu ho fel. Yede ne ko Pilato ho mpre no. Na Pilato yire so ka kire ne se damfui oyetiri ni anajo ne hunti manna ne de hwe na wonfa wano anto na semu na Herod se mama yemmo no na yenhwe se ombehu ne mobo agya ina na no ma de Isaiah kan ye ne baamu se de be ye bebo no ye betwa ne ma ama wapirepira na ne ma ntampia mu ye nya yaresa na Isaiah say, who has believed this our report? Until the arm of the Lord is revealed to you, you cannot accept it. And you understand me no kasafa the crucifixion and its benefits to humanity. Yaka crucifixion, we are simply talking about a shameful death reserved for dangerous criminals who were not Romans. Roman for the Israel for so na wo quite be a first kum Jewish rebels omunye Roman for ma enti eye ekuma yetim bawa senua de utare dua ho na be se bosome miensa na ye nwai wo ye wro pieto eyi watare na ye yewa yakayaka de na ye de asinkwa nchen na ba bia ewo kokowo so na obi atwam a wahudi akoso na serve as deterrent enti ye punish nipa your philosophy of law a chira why somebody must be punished it be a retributive justice said your ye na ye ni bia ma na ye ne ya na ebi also to serve as deterrent said ebeya nipa nyina behu na omunye biu and the crucifixion was a disgraceful death reserved for dangerous and despicable criminals who were not Roman citizens. The Bible ma bimfo bi say ya chi Peter na ya bona sanuam esan se na onye Roman citizen ba ya chi Paul na yetwa niti na yetwa oti ya nuonyam wu tie na Roman citizen betimi awu bi. So to crucify therefore is to execute somebody on the cross. You can say you crucify obi anti Pontius Pilate beside you for the say na Yesu ya osi oyam hini menya ne dan omo say crucify him bona senuam na se kire ne say kum no fam dua ho na emma obi enhu say oye nipa bone a all say my na boni be na waye oh na ogu yesuma se ndey musuma se mo amonka made am say oye ni se atumi no ye ntimo ntia no ai okay osi oye ohene na oye ohene na se kire ne se wa commit crime be friend treason anini mienu entena bon ba akum Roman for and edi Israel for so and Caesar and aye ohene na Herod Kranso age license with Caesar ho a no so ye ohene ewo Judea na Caesar emperor ana hini no e free Europe e betwam akwa Babylon the whole of North Africa. Na ekosi UK. Na yede Middle East Yesu ho aka ho. And also your hina, not just a one Herod na epre. Enti Pilato making sure say obe hu say Yesu your hina mpa na yegyina nanum asem so abu ne fo. Na Bible say the nipa ka so na yegyina bu ne fo. To obi say da wo your hine. Na Yesu hwe no. Wo your hine. Yesu so na waka. Na sanka mahine ye wiase de a. Nka masojafo betia wo. Na Yesu nim de orka. Because he had 12 legends of angels at his disposal, and they were ready to strike. Now the 40 above about Timukuma Soja for just one night, with Timkum 189,000. The year's bodyguards are 6,000 times 12. Oh, my, the host of heaven, Surah Soja for. Tina he say Yesu bomb by Jerusalem. Go bet mash krona say. Pilato hwe Yesu hu say, "Dabi, akwa na hini na o ka no kora no." O say, "Me ba say me be di no kora no ho adanse." No, so what is truth? And so Yesu amfi no. O say akwa na onye di bonye ni. But amanfo say, "What be na no aka so your ahene dane de." Pilato se wanhwe amayante na wonye Caesar damfo. And they were blackmailing him, roping him into a more serious issue. No, who say, wanhwe amayankum Yesu a ono kwa na dwuma da bono. O se ne momfa nsuom na memfa hohoro me nsa. Na minhunu so nipa bono ti ha. Herod manifest subam boni bia. E woni pa mo nka no kuremu. Enti we a man of conviction. Now who righteous man we so nye boni. Na nipa ninti ukuno. O horo nsa. Na wantima hohoro na akoma mu de. Na oma kwan e ma yekoye na ka yakade kuno. Enti the question is, was Christ charged with a crime? The answer is yes. Omo charging is he was desecrating the Jewish religion. 2, he was also claiming to be a king, which is treasonable. That Yeswan sem gu so na omu memreda homeda onfani die ma enti yayana yakayaka de na yatam no kodua no so. Enti another question is, was Christ actually crucified? Na Paul no eka se ane na die ntia achinyegye wo ho ne se asennua no ho asem ye nkwase asem ani pa onya nginiye na yanema yagye adidi eyetumi a ade ewura nkwaje mu. So Christ indeed was crucified. He was convicted, albeit he wasn't a criminal. Ye buano kumfo nso no anye bone da. Na Isaiah say wamie na no na efibia ni mu, and yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. And so ready ni say sayaka yakade no onkom na yekuno ye pejano esensan ho na ye twere wona asennua na pompam say we ni nia osi oye Judafo hene no na ye peja Yesu sensan ho na owuye na obewu no okeka ansem na obompa ye ma Jerusalem no no ade ne crash agya nensa na for kasa agya the other suma mini nyina so mawie it is finished. That he gave up his ghost. Na ye Yesu to ho na ne maame ene omo gi ni di ye di na chi ye di ni funa mo wo pagya agye nkwansa na ato ho enim adwea na ekoso wo butim se Yesu no a obegye ye no onu nie asuafo adwane emema kwahye ntokrom na yekosie no na no so nyame asem mu o say he was buried as a common criminal. The yesie no adimanyefo mu, he died like a man, and yet he was buried in the tomb of a rich man. And the nyame de Shananyonyam, also because no guile was found in him. As I say, who Bonnie Bakumpo would the Sian Ampa Joseph of Arimathea. Amna Otutu was a Missikani, Matuma Mana to me, who I see me muno, or die my years. Jew for a month for or more dead bodies in Niagara. And now I know Casako Jerusalem. You see, cemeteries a yabro sign as a for koto. The ultimate tobia, unu fear for your siamo. Na a honor, yadi yesu kotoye. Now the next questioner, he say ye bisa, and he say, why must Christ die that way? And they say yesu who was our quite tiny so. Dear Nkwanya Mintimunjie. Ne who he say, Trini ni huna manesa. Na anona ye baby say ho. Na ye do answer my baby say, why should the Christ die in this despicable manner? Say moja na ready here. Ye timo fa kwa for so nye. Adentina say banesa that the first a year say ye nyina twe adwene si ho ne say. He had to die because God needed his blood. There's an importance in the blood of living things. Nti aboa kura urade ma nipa kwan say yenre e wa panda da mu no. Waka say ni moja mu na ne nkwate. Nti anu de mo hwe nam na monko. Ka kire no wa ne ne ma. Na Mose nim so besi sudua. And there's something very powerful with blood because it is the very dwelling place of life. And almost all things are by law. That's the law of Moses, purged with blood. And without the shedding of blood, there is no remission for sin. Hebrews chapter 9 verse 22. Or see, and almost all things are by law purged with blood. And without the shedding of blood, there is no remission for sin. Or sin na mrano so chire se. Adie bia ye beye ye de emoja ene bete ho. Enti Israel for ni awurade nya apam bia ye de moja shedding so. Obo beko war esi ye hwie moja agu wo ye bone a ese odo nsa to aboa so ye bompa ma ho na odbone ho aso twe to aboa no so na aboa no awu ama wo. Na saa na etie na osese moja hwie gu nso ni ho a bone fafire ni ho. Na ye granafo ya mamre ben saa de nti it shouldn't be too difficult for you to accept. Now I know your number one, it shows the importance of blood sacrifice. That every serious spiritual contract needed to be initiated with the blood. So Christ, the mediator of the new covenant, had to die, had to use his own blood to enunciate the new regime. And you go Hebrews chapter 12, verse 22 to 24. Also, for we have come to Mount Zion, unto the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels, to the general assembly and to the church of the firstborn, which are written in heaven, and to God the judge of all, and to the spirit of just men and women made perfect, and to Jesus the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of the sprinkling that speaks better things than the blood of Abel. Or for who tear me until years to woo yano yatani moja and call the general assembly of heaven into the sanctuary of God, and the blood was praised before God, and the blood began to sprinkle. That's such as say there's life in the blood. Yesu moja munkwa employe. Na Yesu moja timoje nkwa nipa dodo say the bit me agi omo wunim dia woka. We are talking about something higher. We're talking about something deeper. We're talking about something spiritual. Ni moja na kosi soro asonde mo ho na topeti na kasa, and the language of the blood speaks better things. The language speaks, and it speaks and invite God to extend mercy to the sinner. Now Abel moja go from kasa say awurade buatan na yesu mogya de eje bonfafre na eti nipa ho wo a wotie me a wobegye awurade adi nne. There's a blood in heaven. Na de the one who shed the blood has become a mediator. Now that is not the only thing Christ is doing there. He has also become our intercessor. He has become our advocate. For we have an advocate in heaven who understands our weaknesses and our pain. The odimba meno. Osiaja kaimoja ya. Uhiye minti nipa yinti. Uhiye efini ho. Na nyame ajanso aye the judge of all. No he na fe ni mobrohunu aye kese. Enti Yesu ni won ho faso ba ko ne se moja hwegu amba. Bonifa free mba. So Christ needed to die. The blood was needful. Awurade hiya moja no. Esan se mo moja aba for free Abraham mreso. Atwam Mose mreso. Abba David mmreso na aboa bia moja nim na afa eduru ba bia na afa ehia supreme sacrifice se Nyankopon kasa moja egufom na eno na bie pono aba bonifafiri aba nipantem afa tie bie the blood seals every spiritual contract. The spiritual contract, and we also talking about the new covenant. Apam fofora abeto nyame ene nipantem ewo Yesu. Now Christ, the mediator of that new covenant, has to present his own blood because it was the best blood of God. After Yen Shannon Subio said, Satan and devils are afraid of the blood of Christ. They fear blood. In the beginning, there was war in heaven, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they love not their lives even unto death. Osina ntokwa kesi wosoro. Na wadi ogwama no moja ene di Satan so. Ene nasem no ho adansedie. Na wona wako sa ntokwa no omo no mo ho. Omo ye ready to die with him. So if you suffer with him, we will reign with him. Yane ne bom hu na mania. Yane ne be bom adi ade. Na bronsam enim the potency of the blood. Revelation chapter 12 verse 11. Onim moja no ahote. The idea no heaven. Na ya bo bronsam no ofrustro behwe from oba at the speed of lightning. Jesus say, I see Satan fall like lightning. Me hu bronsam say watia to say agrada anyinam hwew or he from e ma asase ani say ye. Ne here say rade summoning some. No, the healing as Ambrasase. He sent forth his spirit. He renewed the face of the earth. Bransamu Sromoja. They say, this Samojano and the bre on it mbra to me as and to Mizrim as so. I say, me whom Mojana make him. Say me whom Mojana make him whom fear Yaman a license to kill every firstborn. Na nye nipa firstborn kwa na okum otimu hu se odwan we oyabakan na ntwe we yabakan okuma konfo mma ekuma hemfo mma ena masikafo fie Goshen ba bia Israel hiafo te awurade se momfa moja ne nkeka mo pona no odofo a wutie mi na wo hweme woso Yesu moja no ene eye available na wo frɛ awurade se ye fa moja ne hyebe nso a God will not deny you. Na amude akeka o se me hwam na me hu moja na o metwam me nwura fie ho. Devils fear the blood of Christ, and in the end time warfare God needed to save all humanity. Avena nye Jew for kwa eso obeji nipa nyina ya bone ho asotwe deda ya so no so na ehia God's most potent weapon, and that is the blood. Amaya kase wo wiase a nuclear bombs, atomic bombs, hydrogen in the akeka ho. Amo friend last resort. Amo say ye kwa na ye hwe na nyema ankoyi a ye be use as last resort. Ye dia say atamfo. Awurade ni na kodi anu e shekese eye Yesu moja ya de bo Satan wa heaven ya de block Satan e wo Egypt na ya de block no e dimra ahoden so the blood needed to be shed na e ho won fa so de to so mienu. There's something called supreme sacrifice. Supreme sacrifice elicit supreme dividend. Se uba for ya eso kese pa ehwe yishira ne mfaso a eso eno ntina Paul wo honhom e kira forebo o se we die me mfa nsiew di ogu ne cheche so no obetwa ne cheche so na di ogu ne bafu no obetwa ne bafu. He that sows sparingly will reap sparingly, and he that sows bountifully will reap bountifully. Until your input determines your output. God wanted to give the best of the best. That is what we call supreme sacrifice. Or maybe when we are say, no, mo na be a supreme sacrifice more. So sorry me, founders of the church, you know. Eba for you be mu edupa ma urade a sa sori no etim what is abotai wo sheki na sheki. Jesus' supreme sacrifice grounded the church on the rock, and the gates of hell can never prevail against it. And you are with me who are day now what just obey me go asori. You are just joking, you are digging your own grave. Nobody can destroy the church of God. The church does better under persecution. That is what history tells us. Say asore bam and hurumu na jide for tijina na asore ni ye spiritually. The ye spiritually e ba honam fam. Say so he my kwa na asore tim ye omode. Na bronsam udi he. Untim wu asore. Untim say de nyame ahyehye. I will build my church, and the gate of hell can never prevail against it. O jidi ni awutie me, osofo awutie me, odifo awutie me asafo panyi. E ba panyi a wajina ma urade memo wakoma ntutu sa sori na urade na si ya obi ntimu nguno, because the church that Christ built was founded upon a massive supreme sacrifice. To Yesu na say, very very I say unto you, except a corn of wheat falls to the ground and die, it abides alone, but if it falls and die, it brings forth much fruit. Or say awifua and to nguya eye baako ututu abro na wi baako pe owi a wo me e de te se de ahwekra wo mfili na se etofom na ye makwan ma ne tofom na ewu pra ebefifi na ebeso aba bebre. So Jesus needed to pay the ultimate sacrifice with his blood. Awifua ne tofom John chapter 12 verse 24. A tofom na say a tofoma ebe pro na ebe sorry na ne pro ye ne nka ho na ya hye Yesu hu kom say on pro nka asiase also for thou has not suffered the Holy One to see corruption in Hades. Uma o kronkron ni pro ewa samando uma mana sorry ababio. Enti Jesus needed to offer a supreme sacrifice, and yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He has put him to grief. When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed, and he shall prolong his days, and the pleasure of the Lord shall prosper his hand. Or say, I saw already say you find with a who eche enche Yesu. You find kase eche enche no. Wa wo bi da. Ya tena kwaye mu atena akurase ye obayire bi afra na habayire u kotu ankase eguso ni technology de kase no fru a wudim nyi bayire no na ne kase wo so tum se ya bibi a wo be bibi bi ete sa na ye de anwono che na ye de hye Yesu na ye pia ma che na hye ni yi na ewura ne nam atin modin be nie enso na ese Yesu soa no me a e ban fiti ase no da nipa ye bone na no me ba se wunti nkase mfifi na enwo na se Yesu tam soa na yare a e honam ye nti se ye bu Yesu na ne man tampie mu ye yaresa talking about the benefits of crucifixion to humanity. I say ya bono. I see a bona daja. Ronnie Pioto. And then say ho. Na exchange. Abba. Na new nyam robe no abedi yensem. Na ye boni adaja akwado ho. Esa say da nipa ye boni ade nipa hu fa na ho ne say me da adaja. Did I say ye boy Yesu adaja? Na ye covered in the love of God. So it pleased the Lord to bruise him. Now see, his life will be poured like libation for a sin offering. Paul say, "Maduru ba bibi ye hwie me egu te sensa." Na say ye hwie Yesu gu te se de ye gu nsa. Na o say ye no sa wi a, nyame bema na dum bi, he will see his seed. And now who tie me waje Yesu adi, what be seed of Christ. Yesu ahume, o hu dibonye ni bio, o hu ono a ne kronkron ye, o hu ne trene. Nti righteousness aye won aye imputed on us. Nyame dia mai Yesu nti. Now see, the pleasure of the Lord will do it, and his hands will be prospered. Already shirani di, ama Yesu di aye the most profitable name. That at the mention of it, every knee bows and every tongue confesses that Jesus is Lord. There is something called supreme sacrifice. You struggle to make sacrifices for your family. The Bible says, "Do a bed done a crown, it be free in some." You are unable to make sacrifices for your family, for your nation. There be the open say, "Yanwamra umawini." So Nyansani be say, do not think about what your government should do for you. Think about what you can do for your nation. Dear wo hope you. Nyame enam apanda damun samo twere nyasa na oye will ama humanity. Ye nyame doyo. Nensam nyina sa ye will na oye. Oye will afa ya yaresa ho. Afa yesikanya ho. Afa ya pomuden ho. Afa ya tena ye. Every man living in his own house and under his own fig tree. Awurade mpesa oda abonten. Ogidi awurade betimi ama wa ofie. Awurade mpesa oye sansani na watwere will na to ho. Na obi ya will na se wanwu a nsem otwere ni nyina ye kwa. So Christ has to die to activate the will of God for our lives. For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be death of the testator. Hebrews chapter 9 verse 16. Baby ayaya well no. The oyensa man say ne so. Enti wo awutie mi, wo papa wo sika na oya will man na onwu ya. Sika na e wo will no no enti mo ma wo nchen. Enti Yesu wo abi adompo no. Ama ne nyame will abe ya japade. Yesu wo ama ya connected to the Abrahamic blessing. Now Yesu wo ama ya access to the blessings of God laid up in the heavenly places. And now we walk in the power of covenant. And we have access to the blessings of Jehovah. The blessings of the Lord, they make it a man rich, and he add no sorrow to it. Sanyami na yenyano. Na waya wela mayen. Enti wa uji Yesu di. Wonye ni paketua. Wonye yarefo. Well no ya twere se. Odofwe. Me yi apa yese. Ensi wiye na nya pomuden. Se de asi wo kra yi. Well no. Ya twere wa yare sansem gum. Ya twere wo mu se. Enye so nipa no nkotena. Enti wo kunu so wo ho. Wo yire wo ho. Wa twere se. Thou shalt not cast forth your young. Wonyin se ya ensei. Wa twere wo mu se. As soon as Zion travels, she will bring forth her child. Now, Missouri forecast Hebrew for an saying, I want Kana over Konawa, and it's a young woman kunkumomo. Well, no, Yakira will ye dear some woman. Say, you shall be the head and never the tail. Yakira woman said, who ye the particular, and what will them? The yes, when you are sorry, dear. Oh, the Jamaican abam. Jesus needed to die so that the will be activated for your consumption. TBU. Now I say yes, now or did demonstrate the power of weakness. And when be a one mereyamua Bronsamunim and na Paul or wahum na orca or 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 8 say the rulers of this age never knew the mistake they were making. Yes, the biggest error of all time. I say, your boy, yes, she see, now I want a day. Yami Buffuna. Why you bonny? Well, when you're telling me, been able to tun see what against she knew. There's something called power of weakness. God was using it as a setup. Your bonum. Until you do bia. Yahoo din free, I come chinim. Obi actually come o ye weak. Power of weakness. Make a power of weakness and make us a codin someone and I say power. You must know say you was an America. Paul said, therefore I take pleasure in my infirmities, in my reproaches, in necessities, in persecution, in distress, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. 2 Corinthians chapter 12 verse 9 to 11. Was a me. Yariemu. I don't grab me my manager. Mesre won so him. See for him book mun me ya me dano. Me hinta what tebo time. Kristo ba hwa me so jojo. Ti mesre e won so him. I take pleasure in reproaches. And in necessities, in persecution or tar, in distress, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. So in the death of Christ, God demonstrated a power that the world doesn't appreciate. Here we are saying, if you say, who are doing was a car, where we, but rather better you see here as a setup. And soon you may so bema what you must say, and so now that's your turning in. Or this yet here, and soon you may say, or bema what you must say, now that's your turning in. A radima crime my job, but you must say. A radima crime my job, yare. Samuel Mame Hannah say, the Lord kills and the Lord giveth life. The Lord lifts somebody and brings somebody low. Radibeti mem wonya bibiri. No beti me abagu. Anya di boy fon ko na Urade obema kwa ma omo ma asay. Yini so ne ma asay nti Urade ato atwene. Zo ebia na bibibi wo ho Urade saw yare. Ebia na kwantu obi nti na Urade ma wo yare. Serebe ya wo nkoji nhia. Ebia oyiada nyame ahyeda ordained by God. Ebia na Urade di train you. A sign a chebi or de besho. Ebia you too low minded. They say Urade agree be free with him. No ma we heavenly minded. Ebia Urade proni. Wo yiyi wo ho. Na wafata de kese bia. Nipa susu se emfata wo. Nipa atwa ho ahye omudi wani no. Ebia Urade yusu omo. And your grow attitude be in you. Now Joseph, I rather kasa no so obedi ade. Na ne papa adi robu ne ba panyin Reuben. Na omunyina hu se papa de ne do ama Joseph. Na wapam coat of many colors aman. Ndi omuni se de bebia obedi ade. Na Awurade ayi achi Joseph wo adi ne da yesumu. Wakam obiati Joseph adwen and say or be a ruler in that village. But God has something bigger and something more powerful. And he needed to go there through the corridors of suffering. Nesi edene tu amena donko. Nesi odanya kwa. Was he that ascended first descended to the lowest part. Sometimes the way down is the way up. So already so be bruise no. Yesu kwa amna donko no ko preachi wo paradisi. Na wufu a wo chi ni di ye. O sorry ye Yesu oye owu sorry abakan. First fruit of resurrection. Na sechere ni say Yesu wu sorry ye wangu bio ye find the resurrection unto eternal life. Yesu kwa na aye bida. Nipa pi Yesu ma wiase nipa pi experience resurrection but Jesus is the first fruit of resurrection unto eternal life. No sorry Abraham sorry if free compartment of hell no money Yesu ko heaven and no jidi ni wu a ko heaven ko na Awurade kwatena se afebo ode hia wo heme Yesu wu no mfaso dos na a demonstrate say through lowliness God can do the unthinkable. Awurade do ko for man tobo the spirit of the Lord was upon me and he carried me in the spirit and led me into a valley full of dry bones. The spirit of the Lord was upon Jeremiah. He led him down into the potter's house. Now Samson kwa Timnat akwa twempana na oko na ne maame ne papa awira ho se na Israel oba ni ha na atamfo mu nko na woko. But see, his parents did not know that it was the Lord, for he sought an occasion to deal with the Philistines. Said already you saw Samson Jimmy as a setup. Yasra Samson go or ye Nazrani and so on the Philistine because it's a Philistine for Bebu Kwasia. So God used his weakness, and in death he killed more of the Philistines than when he was alive. Or this year we tear me. Bronsam didn't say what door where we were too perish. Was sell when you mean the work sure what you say, and that's when you well who say people are celebrating because of your downfall. Because so I already may hint at a table time na Christo Basha me so Jojo. And until a messy, I was so him. Yankosu hinta with mu. What is she tear me? God can use weakness as a setup. Mama makumantutu. Munjia radini. Yesu se munjia radini na meso munji mini. Die bio ntina na yese Yesu. He had to defeat Satan on the cross. So this Satan so kwidim e was senua no so. A devastating blow. And having spoiled principalities and powers, he made a show of them openly, a public show, triumphing over them in it. Colossians chapter 2 verse 15. Jesus made a public show of devils. Now, why not on the first of it, yes. Now, Yabona the Jama ma at the Farfon Yakwa so come dino Sana Bronsana Yesu Achina Taraho. Sana Ayame Madeja na Yesu Afroko. And now all make a public show of them. Now, where dear Paul and Rahu woman come to yes yet. No one that say Paul say, I know a man who was raptured to the third heaven and he was shown unspeakable things. Yet Tamiko Sura Tosomiensa. Na ye ko kira ne nima kese bia nipa ye ma ne kwanso mfa na nonka. Ti Paul nya deeper understanding. Se sana Satan na ye de na sense no nim na Yesu gro ne ho. And on that same cross Christ nailed our suffering and all handwritings that were against us, that were contrary to us. Nsanu twere ye mra nsama ya twere bi wo di an emu. Se uye sasabro Would the 40 years I will be woo? Yakram say na be say na be ye and so yesu tanu nyina ekọ born na sanua wodua no so. He nailed them to the cross. Now, if we be dead with Christ, we believe that we shall also live with him. In him we died. And when he rose from the dead, in him we rose with him. And now we are seated together in him in the heavenly places to enjoy in the presence of God. Yanina sorry abum. Say yes, you can say you are him the oil. Or see, knowing that Christ being raised from the dead dies no more. Death has no more dominion over him. Obi wu sorry ya. Oni uwo ni komodie biu. Ene makrobi aso yesuro nsamanfo. Obi wu sorry ya. Oba dem opa omokokoko obewura. Yesu ati nkense. Wasori afra wufum oyowura.
Wasori
oyowura kotogenyina kotono nakatrema nyina so tetrema bekase Yesu yowura Jesus is Lord. Jesus is Lord. Jesus is Lord. Oh, you. Kotogenyina. Kotogenyina. Kotono. Natakramanyina so. Tachrama. Yesu yowura yowura yowura. Dear, for in that he died unto sin once, but in that he lived unto God. Oh yeah. Uko bonimu na wasori ama urade. Your boy ya say you wura ho a symbolism. Symbolic language ya kire say. Yesu yewu. Na ni Yesu asori. Abanyame han ni mu. Tireni mu. Na miwie kura no. Shadanson. O defeat ahunfi no. So he made a public show of them. Now Paul say, 1 Corinthians chapter 2 verse 8. I say, this none of the princes knew. They didn't know of it. For had they known it, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. You know, munim di omoye. Didn't Jesus Christ say, "Jafacho wonim di oye." They were ignorant. And who feel my bon munim di omoye. Yes, you so san osre. Na jana sura temudi. Na bibi hunhu bi koso. Defeating Satan. Defeating the power of sin and death. Sin originates death. Now, Bonnie, aye pani, amrashanema, no di kum nipa. Na sa to me no, ena Yesu mene no won kunimdie mu e wa asenua no so. No si owu onwu waye wahe And you go where the bonny. Na bonny was on where he. I say, I don't know Marana. Media bomb me for hina, medi kum nipa. I say, Yesu, I'm meaning in our own. He went to the cross for our total deliverance. Now, sa same way, na ya yankwaji ho anyonyam. Eno na omo munji ni yase yankwase asem. The message of the cross is foolishness to them that are perishing. But unto us, it is God's wisdom. Wisdom unto salvation. Now, Yesu frokos no, why you clothed with all the resources of heaven. Niema nyina be ye ne dia. Because say ma me sufura asase so a meji nipa nyina ama me ho. And now Christ is still in the business of redeeming humanity unto himself. Ji already Yesu di. No beje wo no fiefo nkwa. Yehowa nhyira wo. Na onnom wo. Yehowa nhyira wo. Onshawa ni onyam ompagya wo. Onyumfuro wo. Ene proyem. Onyumfuro ni nguase mu. Na onhyira wo. Ade nyina mu ensi wo yie. Ewo nyame agya, nyame oba, nyame onkonkodi mu. Amen. Koto dwe nyina ba koto no. Oh, that's never Everybody, yes, I will be your son. We immune ourselves from the power of coronavirus. In the blood, we will not die. We will live and live. And we declare the works of the Lord. Everybody, Messiah Yaria, Messiah Yaria, Behuya Mopo, Behuya Mopo. We serve a living God.
For watching today's program. We love and appreciate your time. We believe you've been blessed hearing this message. For copies, visit the Christ Apostolic Church International Headquarters Bookshop at Osu, where you can also get other life-changing Christian literature. Connect with us on these social media platforms: CACIHQ.org, YouTube.com/CACIHQ, Facebook.com/CACIHQ. Send us an email, info@CACIHQ.org. For further enquiries, kindly call 0244 455 288, 0549 765 357, and 0202 011 077. You can also visit any of our branches worldwide and fellowship with us. Make a date with us same time next week.